I never hated Christmas. That's important to say. I didn't resent it the way some people do, the lights, the music, the pressure to feel something on command. I just stopped trusting it. Somewhere along the way, Christmas became a reminder instead of a refuge. A reminder of everything that was supposed to be whole, and everything I was quietly failing to hold together. When I was younger, Christmas felt permanent. Like it would always return exactly the same no matter what happened the rest of the year. Same smells, same warmth, same sense that the world slowed down long enough for people to remember each other. I thought that was how life worked, that some things were guaranteed. I was wrong about that. By the time the winter I'm talking about arrived, I had already learned that guarantees disappear slowly. They don't announce themselves. They fade, and you don't notice they're gone until you reach for them and find nothing there. That December, the air felt heavier than usual. Not colder exactly, just heavier. Like the season itself knew something I didn't want to admit yet. Everywhere I went, I saw reflections of a life I felt like I was losing control of. Store windows glowing warmly while my chest stayed tight. Houses lit up from the inside while I felt dimmed, stretched thin, hollowed out by responsibility. I told myself it was just stress. That once the holidays passed, things would settle. That's the lie people like me tell themselves. That relief is always one calendar page away. I was carrying more than I let anyone see. I always did. Bills, expectations, mistakes that couldn't be undone. A sense that I was falling behind in a race I didn't remember signing up for. And beneath all of it, the fear that I was about to disappoint the people who trusted me the most. That fear is loud when you're alone with it. It echoes, especially at night, when the world is quiet and you can hear your own thoughts clearly. Especially in winter, when darkness arrives early and leaves late, and your mind has more time to wander places you'd rather avoid. I didn't talk about it. I smiled when I was supposed to. I kept my voice steady. I told myself that holding it together was love. That absorbing pressure without complaint was strength. But strength has a cost when it's built on silence. Christmas that year didn't feel like a celebration approaching. Felt like a deadline. Like a test I hadn't studied for, with stakes higher than I was prepared to face. I watched my family move through the days unaware of how fragile everything felt to me. I told myself that protecting them from worry was my job, that if I carried enough weight alone, they wouldn't have to feel it. I didn't realize I was already breaking under it. There's a particular loneliness that comes from being needed, from believing that if you fall, everything else will collapse with you. It isolates you in ways that aren't obvious from the outside. People see responsibility. They don't see fear. They see reliability. They don't see the cracks forming underneath. As Christmas got closer, the cracks widened. Small things felt overwhelming. Decisions felt heavier. I started measuring time differently, not in days, but in moments I could get through without panicking. I slept lightly. I woke up tired. I stared at the ceiling at night, listening to the house breathe, wondering how much longer I could pretend everything was fine. I remember standing in the kitchen late one night, the only light coming from a small lamp, the rest of the house dark and still. Outside, faint winter lights glowed from neighboring homes, blurred by the cold glass. I felt like an observer of other people's lives, like warmth existed everywhere except where I stood. I didn't pray the way I used to, not because I didn't believe anymore, but because I didn't know what to ask for. Relief felt too vague. Help felt like failure. So I stood there quietly, hands resting on the counter, breathing slowly, telling myself to make it through one more day. That's the thing about loss before it fully arrives, you feel it coming. It hums in the background. It makes every joyful moment feel borrowed. I had trusted someone I shouldn't have. Not out of carelessness, but out of hope. Hope can blind you when you're desperate for stability. I ignored small warning signs because I needed things to work. I convinced myself that good intentions would be enough to protect the people I loved. They weren't. When it unraveled, it didn't explode. It slipped. Quietly. Incrementally. Like a thread being pulled loose while you're not looking. And by the time I noticed how much had come undone, there was no easy way to tie it back together. Betrayal doesn't always feel like anger. Sometimes it feels like embarrassment. Like realizing you trusted the wrong version of someone because you needed that version to exist. Sometimes it feels like regret you can't explain without sounding weak. I blamed myself more than anyone else. I still do sometimes. That's another habit I carry. Turning disappointment inward because it feels more controllable that way. By Christmas Eve, I was running on nothing but obligation and instinct. I went through the motions because that's what people do when they don't know what else to do. I wrapped what I could. I smiled when expected. I kept my voice calm even when my chest felt tight. That night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, I stayed awake longer than usual, watching, listening, memorizing small details like I might need them later. The sound of breathing from the next room, the quiet rhythm of a house at rest. I felt an overwhelming need to protect that stillness, even though I didn't know how. Eventually, I stepped outside into the cold. Winter air has a way of cutting through pretense. It wakes you up, strips away distraction. The sky was dark and clear, the kind of dark that feels endless. I stood there longer than I planned to, letting the cold numb the noise in my head. That's when the stranger entered my life. Not dramatically, not as a turning point I recognized at the time. Just another person moving through their own night, carrying their own unseen weight. There was nothing about them that screamed importance. No sign that this moment would matter. And yet something slowed down. Maybe it was the familiarity of tiredness. Maybe it was the quiet way they occupied space, not demanding attention, not performing anything. There's a way some people exist that feels honest, unpolished, human. I noticed it before I understood it. I didn't explain myself. I wouldn't have known where to start. But pain doesn't always need explanation. Sometimes it just needs recognition. And in that quiet winter moment, I felt seen without being examined. The help that came didn't arrive wrapped in speeches or advice. It didn't feel like charity. Felt like choice. Like someone deciding that another person mattered enough to step in without needing to be thanked publicly or remembered loudly. That mattered more than I realized at the time. There's a difference between being helped and being diminished. The stranger never made me feel small. Never made me explain myself. Never asked me to justify how I'd ended up there. They didn't save us by fixing everything. They saved us by interrupting the spiral long enough for me to breathe again. I didn't cry right away. I didn't even feel relief immediately. What I felt was disbelief. The quiet kind. The kind that makes you suspicious of kindness because you're not used to receiving it without conditions. But kindness has its own weight. And slowly it settled in. The days that followed didn't suddenly become easy. Christmas morning didn't arrive wrapped in magic. But it arrived with something I hadn't felt in a long time: stability. Enough. Enough warmth. Enough safety. Enough hope to get through the day without fear pressing against my ribs. We gathered. We ate. We laughed softly and perfectly. Nothing about it was extravagant. And yet it felt real. Honest. Like a version of Christmas that didn't ask us to pretend. I watched my family that day with a new awareness. Not just love, but gratitude sharpened by how close I'd come to losing my footing. I realized how much pressure I'd been carrying alone, and how unnecessary some of it had been. The stranger didn't stay. They were never meant to. Some people pass through your life not to become part of it, but to redirect it. to remind you of something you forgot about yourself. After that winter, I changed in ways that weren't obvious from the outside. I learned to speak sooner, to ask before desperation arrived, to recognize that strength isn't isolation, it's connection. Christmas stopped being a performance. It became a pause, a moment to take stock, to notice who's struggling quietly, to remember that survival isn't always loud or heroic. Sometimes it looks like one person choosing compassion without expecting anything in return. Every year when winter returns, I think about that night, about how close I came to breaking without anyone knowing, about how easily that moment could have passed unnoticed, about how many strangers cross paths every day without realizing what they might mean to each other. The strangers saved my family, yes, but more than that, they saved my understanding of what it means to be human. They taught me that redemption doesn't require spectacle, that help doesn't have to humiliate, that Christmas at its core isn't about abundance, it's about recognition, seeing someone, and letting yourself be seen. I carry that lesson with me now, long after the lights come down and the season fades, because winter always returns in one form or another. And now when it does, I know I don't have to face it alone.